Okay, so this video will wrap up where we had to cut short yesterday when we were discussing our first assignment, the Paths and Plans document. Again, you can find this discussion in the content section on D2L under Module 1 Purpose. Just click on that and you'll see the Paths and Plans document. Just to reiterate, and I'll reiterate again at the end in demonstration of how you turn things in, and of course it'll be in the running calendar as well. For those of you who weren't here, I'm not going to do the whole lecture, but just to express succinctly what you missed, in this Paths and Plans document, we had questions about what degree you were pursuing. I, of course, had to answer all of these in retrospect. I've already achieved the degree that I was pursuing, and I will be uploading my plans and purposes document to the discussion group that I referred to earlier, so you can look at mine as an example for how I answered these questions. Then, of course, you'll get the spirit of that as you see me answer the questions that we didn't get to during the last class. So the second question is, what is the aspiration for which you are pursuing this degree? You can see some answers are shorter, some answers are a little bit longer. I would prefer, a short paragraph, maybe 3 to 5 sentences, depending. How many years have you been making art, or since what age? I told a little anecdote about a memory that I had. In the future, I'll probably add that to the question. List all previous art training, shorter. This includes school experience, workshops, private instruction, camps, etc. I talked a little bit about my mentor, Richard Olson, and why he was my mentor. So it's not just answering the question with a name. It's answering the question with, in his case, how he specifically influenced my way of viewing art as a human endeavor, and the role and purpose of the artist in engaging in that human endeavor. I think the takeaway, if I was to shorthand it, was he made me realize that my experience as a human being could communicate more profound things about what it means to be a human being, and that my experiences could be made universal in my art and could speak to experiences that other people had about things like heritage, worldview, political or religious beliefs, and that everything we've experienced, even things that may seem insignificant, like the couch and its color that was in the living room of where we grew up, or the music or clothing we were into, that this could all be not just a part of the conceptual aspect of our art, but even, as I said, the bright yellow 70s color of the couch that was in my living room as a child finds its way into my palette. Obviously, it's not a subject matter, although couches could be a subject matter that have great significance or symbolic weight. But I can remember a couch. Let's see if I can find something similar. Yeah, looked very similar to this. It was more a stripe pattern, but those kind of mustardy yellow colors, and the color yellow in particular, finds its way into my art a lot. When we talk about artist lectures in the future of this class, and what those are like and what they're for, etc. Oh yeah, that's the color right there. When we talk about that later, the artist lecture and how we think about art as artists is not just what we're saying with the art, but how we're saying it. So even the colors have a qualitative kind of emotional effect on what it is you're communicating. Yes, the color yellow can have different versions, and those different versions can have a different meaning in the painting. Um, we talked about this question: what art forms or media are your favorites to work with, and why? I said that I preferred watercolor, and I talked about why I preferred watercolor. Um, my absolute favorite artist today is Paul Klee. Now, you'll notice that the second part of this, and I believe this is where we left off during the last class, the second part of this question is including an example, an image of their art in your discussion post. So, Paul Klee is the artist I'm currently fascinated with. It changes. So, I'll go ahead and play from this slide. So, here's his name. This is an example from Paul Klee, Fish Magic. I like his work because it has a depth and dimensionality that one might see in a more realistic slash naturalistic painting. Very atmospheric. There's a lot of air and space in the painting. The colors are very jewel-like and luminous, but they're sophisticated. They're not just out-of-the-box crayon colors. And then this weird kind of folky, whimsical, it's not childish, but it is childlike style. So these, circular, almost stick figure heads, the fish distilled down into geometric shape. I also love the texture of the surface. You can see, a similarity in this image, which is more iconic. It's just a head, a cat's head with a bird, but you have that same kind of atmospheric quality, same kind of geometric distillation of shape, bright and rich color, but subtle as well, not just out of the box. Here's some prints that he did. So printmaking. He also, in addition to animals and human beings, clocks, recognizable objects, did these kind of like invented machines that have kind of a similarity with things in nature, but also look like machines. Here, these people kind of look like machines, spokes in a wheel, all of the geometric shapes that makes the figures not natural looking, but kind of robotic. I like the caricaturishness, the exaggeration and elongation of shape. I like his use of line. Again, very atmospheric. This is probably one of his most famous within this particular style. Angelus Novus, the new angel. This painting is very rich, much richer than it appears formally. The way that it looks seems simple, but there's some conceptual richness to it. There's a historian, Walter Benjamin, who wrote a whole book about it. I'm sorry, not a book, an essay. There is a book about it, though. He also did a lot of work that was more like a patterning or a quilt. I think I mentioned when I was talking about my mentor, Richard Olson, that his work looks like a quilt. And as a native of Appalachia, the idea of quilts are very much a part of the aesthetic. How do I say this? So in Appalachia, quilts are very celebrated and treasured. They're family heirlooms. Usually quilts are very geometric and abstract like this. Lots of patterns. They're useful to cover you at night, keep you warm. They're also utilizing old clothes and bed sheets and things like that that would normally be thrown away and that are repurposed. And in repurposing them, they're made beautiful. In some cases, more beautiful than they were when they were just clothes or just bed sheets, because these patterns in the new context of the quilt create a very rich visual experience. For me, what's interesting about them is this geometric surface contains images that are from different moments in time, or different members of the family, different experiences, different images like patterns or actual imagery. And I think Paul Klee thought about these containers as um, containers for different experiences, as well as creating uh, just a rich experience of color or texture. Um, Here's a kind of combination of the quilt like matrix of the composition, and then these little quirky, uh, cartoonesque, childlike figures. And he would be considered a member of the Surrealists. So, in my question, I answered it. I appreciate his whimsy and joyful exuberance regarding the universe and the creativity that unfolds in its temporal time and space. I find purpose as an artist in his idea that art is a part of human beings' activity in creation and nature, that we are a force through which God's power is made evident. So there's a kind of religious component to Paul Klee's worldview. Although whether he was a religious person or not is in question. I think he had moments and times where he doubted and moments in time where he believed. What kind of art do I consider bad? uh, why do I consider it bad? And again, like this last question, you want to upload an image of the kind of art that you consider bad into the discussion post. I'm most, I guess, turned off by an artist named Thomas Kincaid. He was popular in the 80s and the 90s. Sorry, I've got the sniffles. And I would consider his art bad, mostly because it's kind of purposeless. Its primary function is um, visual. It's just, in this case, painting flowers in a gate. There's a kind of quality of impressionistic style here, um, but instead of fulfilling the impressionist purpose, which was to capture reality and the movement and the variations of color and space and time, Kincaid is producing work just to purely tickle the eye. It's about um, candy art. Uh, and of course, you could try to interpret this, for instance, from a spiritual point of view. It's a gate from one reality to the other. But I don't think that was Thomas Kincaid's intention. I think his intention was just to produce objects that were appealing. And of course, part of that motivation was to sell them. Um, One could argue this point. Here's another one. Kincaid was known as the painter of light. And I think there are some good things happening. He's certainly not bad technically. I think it's more about it lacking any kind of deeper either symbolism or feeling. Uh, he was known as the painter of light, and certainly light is communicated in the image. He's technically sound in that regard. But it just feels kind of surfacey. It's very surfacey when it comes to content. The form is like candy. It's very rich, um, but almost overly so. There's not a lot of subtlety that's happening in the work. Um, Again, I think his primary drive was monetary, um, and he certainly made a lot of money. He even partnered with Disney. This is really confusing to me because you have all of these moments from the film, pardon the watermark here, um, but it just feels very disjointed. And of course, the style of the Kincaid painting coupled with this kind of Disney-esque style, it doesn't unify in my mind. It feels very forced. So those are a couple of reasons why I consider Kincaid's art to be bad art. It's still art, It's just not something that speaks to me. So there's my answer to the Thomas Kincaid question. The last two questions have to do with your definition of art and why you think it's important. So when I'm writing my own current definition of art, um, I'm thinking about visual art in particular. I think that art is the use of visual means to express the human condition in all its range and diversity. It is about communicating who we are, both as individuals and as a collective. So for me, art, fundamentally, its purpose, in philosophy, this is telos or teleology. Its purpose is about communication. There's a lot more to it. Obviously, we have to know something in order to communicate it, and art can help us know things. But fundamentally, it's about communicating who we are as individual artists and as part of the human experience. Finally, why is art important to that experience? Well, for me, it's about that idea of communicating specifically goodness, beauty, and truth. So art seeks, whenever we make art, we want it to be good. And we want it to, in my case, to express good things. Now, you could want to express bad things, but you would want to do it well. You could also obviously have different ideas of what beauty are. There's a poet, Charles Baudelaire, who wrote a whole poem about a rotting corpse. And it was a beautiful poem, but it was about something ugly. So that idea of beauty, something that is visually and mentally pleasing at the same time, of course, connects with what is good. And then truth. What is reality? How do we communicate that reality objectively without bias? Or if we're going to be biased, with awareness of that bias. And of course, the idea of truth as being something that maybe is universal, that's unchanging throughout time and space, is something that many artists seek to express in their art and try to make their art follow as a kind of guidepost or a principle. So as I think about art and why it's important, for me, it helps us realize that no matter where we come from in time and space and how that shapes us in identity, that as a member of the human race, there are certain universal ideals that bind us together. And I want to communicate that, and I like to see that reflected in art. All right, so once you're done with this, you turn it in. So how do we do that? So we go to D2L, log in. Go to our first year experience class. Go to discussions. Scroll down until you find Module 1 Paths and Plans documents. Start a new thread. Take your document. Select all the questions and answers. Copy and paste. Go back to your field. It's a good idea to keep the formatting. Uh-oh. There we go. There was something there. Now, you want to take photographs of your artist. Now, a quick note on that. If I go to Paul Clay and I look him up on Google, I can go to Images and I can go to Tools and go to Large Size. This will give you a better resolution image. So I'm just going to take that and pull it onto my desktop. I'll go ahead and get Thomas Kincaid. Again, go to large. Click on the image. Pull it onto your desktop. Now, to upload an image, you go to this bar here at the top of the thread, click the image. You'll get this pop-up. Click My Computer, Upload. Look for your favorite artist first. It's right here. Open. Store in close course files. Okay, don't do attachment. Store in course files. Add. And then when you get this, click this image is decorative and then hit OK. And you can see that it added my image. Okay, now I'm going to hit the return key so that my cursor goes down. I'm going to hit my JPEG button there, my image button. Find the next image, not that one. Where is it? Ah, here it is. This image is decorative. Must be the wrong file extension. Sometimes if it's not a JPEG, it won't work. I have some other Thomas Kincaids here. There's a Thomas Kincaid. Store in course files, decorative, OK. And then hit the post key. So when I come to look at your work and I click on your name, I'll see the thread of your answers and I'll see your two images. I'm not sure why this is so small. So that's a good problem to have because it helps me to demonstrate. So if something happened that was wrong, I can go back to my name and click the down arrow, hit Edit Thread, scroll down. I'm going to click on that image and remove it. Keep the cursor there. Now, you'll notice you don't see the picture here, the JPEG picture insert thing. So I can hit this down arrow and there's the insert image. My computer, upload. Let's see. Do I have any other Klee paintings here? There we go. Much better. Storing course files, add. This image is decorative. OK. Update. Very nice. So that's a good looking thread there. All right. Looks like there's something at the bottom that I want to edit out. No, we're good. Okay. That's it. So that's your homework. I'm going to pull up the running calendar real quick. So I'm going to send you this document. We discussed the paths and plans. We acquired the material and we answer those questions in the paths and plans document. And then this tells you the steps to get that finished and uploaded in the proper place. And of course, this is to be done by the beginning of the next class. Now, just a reminder, our class will be meeting in the Dunlap Mathis building on the Dahlonega campus in room 107. I'll put that in the email thread again. So don't go to Health and Natural Sciences. We won't be meeting on Teams. We'll be meeting in the Dunlap Mathis building. We're going to have a special guest, Professor Jennifer Graff. I'll keep in contact with you so that everybody knows and is reminded of where we're meeting and who we're meeting. So have a good weekend.